All right, so last night you guys had a point and a slope. Sometimes the point was, let's see, was there any of them? Nope. Nope, there was one that had a y-intercept. But most of them just had a regular old point and a slope. Then you had some pictures of graphs where you had to figure out what the equation would be based on what you saw in there. So my question for you today is, if I give you 2 points, how are you going to write the equation of this line? Because what's one of the key things you need in order to write an equation? Luke, you need the slope. So this one doesn't give it to you, so what are you going to do? So I'm going to kind of put this on pause and let you guys work on this for a bit. All right, let's have your attention. What I'd like is for those of you who have come up with an answer, and I know several of you have, please share with me your answer, and then we'll, if somebody says your answer, don't raise your hand anymore. But if you have an answer different from what somebody else has said, keep your hand up and we'll write it down. And then we'll go through the problem to see who is the right person. Okay, so Ben, your hand first.
Y equals negative 2x plus 9.
Y equals negative 2x plus 9. Okay? Anybody else? Okay, we've got another one. Zach?
Y equals positive 2x minus 9.
Ooh, so we got a little bit of a sign disagreement. Anybody else? That's it? Oh, I see where. Okay, let's try. Let's find out. So we all agree what's missing that we need? Slope. So let's start with slope. So we get m equals y over x, connect and subtract. I get 4 over negative 2, which gives me a negative 2. Zach, it may not look good. We'll find out. Hi.
Mr. Johnson was wondering if you had any extra copies of the worksheet that we gave him.
All right, so we're going to take that slope and we're going to take a point. Now what's nice, boys, is that both the points have only positive, so it really doesn't matter which one I choose. So I think I'm going to choose the first one. So I put it into point-slope form. Y minus the y value, 5, equals the slope, negative 2, times the quantity x minus the x value, 2. So then I'm going to start solving by distributing the negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. And then I would add 5 to both sides. And I get y equals negative 2x plus 9. How many of you ended up with that correct answer? Okay, now so this is my confusion. When I gave this problem to first period, I had one of the coordinates was a negative and it gave fractional pieces. So that's why I was looking at your answers going, what? But those of you who got y equals negative 2x plus 9 followed through all the steps correctly and got it right. So somehow I think, Zach, you just had a calculation error or sign error, and then that kind of messed it up. Nope. The only correct answer is y equals negative 2x plus 9. Okay? So what we're going to do is now take these official notes, because basically the steps that were taken are the steps that you need to take on your homework tonight. So go to a new. Let's talk about objectives. Is to write an equation of a line. Shh. Ladies and gentlemen, quiet please. Given 2 points. So we're not going to be given a slope this time. We're going to have to do a little bit upfront work to figure out the slope. And then we are going to review slope-intercept form. That's how you're going to write your answers. Point-slope form. That's how I'm going to demonstrate starting the process. and standard form. Now, I'll be honest with you. Our book does not emphasize standard form at all. So it does not ever ask you to do it. However, your review homework and your tests will require you to give the answer in different forms. Sometimes it'll ask you to give it in all three forms: point slope, slope intercept, and standard form. You are never ever going to take information like 2 points, be able to plug them right into standard form and call it a day. Because standard form doesn't reveal slope and it doesn't reveal a y-intercept. It doesn't do anything like that. So the only way to get into standard form is to take an equation that's in either point slope or slope intercept form and solve it into standard form, remembering all the rules about that. Okay? So let's go ahead and review what we had talked about yesterday. What are the necessities for an equation? And we had 4 necessities. What 4 things must you have in order to write an equation? Okay, one thing at a time. Carly, what's one thing? You have to have a slope. Okay, what's the second thing that you need? Brandon? X-intercept? Okay, do you have to have a y-intercept? What did we say in our notes yesterday? Oh, who remembers? Dylan?
Just a point.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the y-intercept. That would be fantastic if it did. All we need is a point that we know is on the line. Okay? All right, we need 2 more things, and these are kind of obvious things that we need. Veronica, what's one of them? We need to have the variable x show up someplace, and we've got one more thing, Denise. We need to have the y show up, okay? So if we have those 4 things, then we can get our equation. So if we're given 2 points, we're missing some of that information. All right, so correction here, and equation. So let's go to the next screen, and let's talk about our strategy given 2 points. That's the weirdest G ever. So the first thing we noticed is there was no slope. So that's job 1, is to use the slope formula. To determine the slope. And as a reminder, m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Y's are always on top, x is always on the bottom. The first 2 coordinates, top and bottom, come from the same ordered pair. If you switch up and you make it y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 1 minus x sub 2, you're going to get the wrong sign every single time. So you got to make sure that things are lined up, same ordered pair, same ordered pair. Very, very important. So if you use my strategy, taking your ordered pair and flipping it 90 degrees counterclockwise, you're going to get your y on top and the x on the bottom. Okay, after that, you are going to select a point and use in, and then we get another choice. So you're going to pick one of the 2 points, and again, my recommendation is if you have a point that has no negatives, he's a good one to choose, because we sometimes get confused when we have double signs to deal with. Now, once I have that point and I have the slope, I'm going to pick one of 2 strategies, one of the forms to plug into. My top form that I like using is point slope form, because all I do is take my 2 pieces of information, my point and my slope, and I put them in their places. And remember, that's the one that looks like y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1 where m is the slope and x sub 1, y sub 1 is the coordinates of the point. X and y are the variables that are going to show up in your equation. Okay? So that's that one in particular. That's why I like to choose two positives for my coordinates if I can. Even better is if I have a positive and a 0 as coordinates. That's even better. Now, if I don't have that, or if I don't like that strategy, I can use slope-intercept form. Now, the big difference, I wrote slope, didn't I? When I am using slope-intercept form, the way that I use it to solve an equation is I'm not plugging numbers in and being done, okay? I'm actually plugging numbers in, calculating B. Then I get to plug B and M back into that form. So the answer I get isn't I'm done. I still have to do more with it. Whereas with point slope, I plug it in, and technically that's an equation of the line. All I need to do, if I want to change it into slope-intercept form, is to get y by itself. So I can keep doing math with it. So we're going to do slope-intercept form, but again, what you're going to do is solve for b. That's what this strategy does. And then once you have the b, and you already got the slope from earlier, then you can plug in. Okay. Now, I am going to add one thing, and we'll come back to it. Check your work. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to check your work on this. Okay? So the best way to do this is to have an example. Okay. So let's do an example where we're given these 2 points, 1, 1, and 2, 3. And our directions are to write an equation of the line containing the 2 points. Okay. So we had said the number one thing that we need to work on is our slope. Without it, we can't do anything. So with slope, I have y over x, connect and subtract. 1 take away 3 is -2. 1 take away 2 is -1. That simplifies down to a +2. Now I'm going to demonstrate with point slope form. If you guys like the slope-intercept form, go for it. Again, they have a really nice explanation of it in the textbook. So for point slope form, let's see. Now I have to make a choice which of the 2 points I want to choose. The nice thing is they both have only positive coordinates, so I think I'm going to go with the 2 smaller numbers, so the 1, 1. So I'm going to have now, again, with point slope form, the y, the minus, the equals, the parentheses, the x, the minus are always there. What changes are the numbers that fill into the blank spots. So for us, we're going to fill in 1 for the y coordinate, 1 for the x coordinate, and 2 for the slope. And now we just solve. How do we solve? Well, we distribute the 2. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times -1 is -2. And then we're going to go ahead and do opposite operations. We're going to add 1 to both sides. And we get y equals 2x minus 1. So the question is, I said we can check this. How can I check to make sure that this is the equation of the line that contains the 2 given points? Dane?
Try the other point.
Exactly. We've got a second point, right? And if my line goes through both these points, then that second point's coordinates will make this true. So we're going to go ahead and grab this guy. And we're going to place the 2 in for the x and the 3 in for the y. And we'll see what we end up with. 3 equals 2 times 2 minus 1. And again, is that going to be equal? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 take away 1 is 3. So what this did is it gave me confidence that I had the right answer. So we're going to go back to the other page. And how we check our work is we're going to substitute the coordinates of the second point, or the other point, into the equation to see if it is true. Now remember what that means. Truth in an equation is what's on the left is equal to what's on the right. Okay? So that's really nice that we have a built-in check system. We don't have to randomly draw it and see if it actually works. We just plug the other point in that we hadn't used. So, remember how I talked about that sometimes you'll be asked to present the answer in different formats. So, for example, if you are asked to write the answer to this problem in point-slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard form, you've already done 2 of those 3. There it is in point-slope form. It took no calculations. I just plugged numbers into the right spots. With a few calculations, I got slope-intercept form. Okay, and now you'll often see me write this for slope-intercept form. Now, what if I wanted to write the answer in standard form? Now we have to remember what standard form looks like. So let's take this equation, and what do I need to do to put it into standard form? Carly? So rule 1 says, I need you to get x and y together on the left. In addition, it says when I rewrite those 2 terms, I need to make sure they're alphabetical and put the x term in front. Now, I don't have the issue in this particular equation, but what am I not allowed to have in standard form? What do I have to deal with and get rid of in standard form? Dylan, you remember?
Fractions.
Fractions. So I don't have any of those in this particular problem. Now, technically, the answer I have is fine. But it's not the most customary way of writing the answer. What's wrong with this answer that I need to make a slight difference with? Brandon?
It said that one of them got x.
Okay, so if I want to make my x positive, what am I going to do to make the x positive? I just can't hear you. We're going to divide, or say again? Multiply. So we can multiply everything, because it's equality, by -1. So if I multiply everything by -1, that gives me 2x minus y equals 1. So now what you have is your answer written in standard form. So again, there's no way to take your given information and write it in, stick the numbers into standard form. You actually have to have it in one of the other 2 forms, either slope-intercept or point-slope form, and then solve it into standard form. Okay, so make sure that you know the criteria for standard form. All right, that's it.